We are live. Hooray! First time I've done one of these for a little while. So welcome back, everyone and anyone who might be listening today, and thank you for tuning in. I am Catherine Gallagher, and I run the Entrepreneur Club Facebook page for Tunbridge Wells, which I keep meaning to change to Tunbridge Wells and beyond, because I'd like it to. Well, we've got people in there from all over the place, so that's great. And the theme has always been around the idea of business for good, because I believe that business can be a force for good. And here to demonstrate that today is Caroline, who, I'd say the whole concept of business for good is sort of very embedded in what you do, really. I've known Caroline for, I don't know how many years. How long have we known each other? It's been quite a few years, I think.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think at network meetings, haven't we, the ladies ones? But I'm sure I've known you before that. Met you a long time ago. Yeah. In the previous life.
Probably. So yes, today we're very, very pleased to welcome Caroline Aldis, and looking forward to hearing about Caroline's entrepreneurial journey. To hear, so actually, Caroline, it'd be great to hear from you. Where did you start your kind of career? Yeah. Like, have you always been self-employed? Tell me, give me a bit of history.
Gosh, well, I've been a therapist for 18 years, and I used to, back in a previous life, I was living in Cambridge, and I had a job with Rank Xerox, which was a brilliant job. I was there for 8 years, started off as a secretary, and then moved into being a customer trainer. And it was not really like working. I used to just really enjoy getting up in the morning and no admin. It was just going out and being with people and showing them how to use the machines that they bought from the company, and it was a great time of my life. Very, very good company to work for. And they but unfortunately back in the 80s, showing my age now, got made redundant. And so then I'll just go back a little bit, because I started my career off as nursing, because when I was 13, I had an accident where I broke my back, broke my shoulder. I was paralysed for 3 weeks, and it took me about 6 months to get back to health. But I think that is quite key to my story, because I've always appreciated my health. So when I never believed that I wouldn't walk again, and that's part of the mind, body, where I'm very determined, very resilient, and all the doctors told my parents I wasn't going to walk again, and I never believed that I wouldn't walk again. And I just wanted to quickly chat about, there was one patient that sticks in my mind that was next to me. She was 26, her name was Carol, and she was paralysed from the neck down, and she was very, very suicidal. I was only 13. And she kept saying she wanted to die, and actually I felt like that's all I wanted to do, being next to her. And I wasn't improving, so I was on a drip, I was losing weight, I couldn't keep food down for 3 weeks. So I didn't seem to be getting any better, and they moved me away from her into a different ward. I remember seeing the sunshine, and and that's where the mind link, how powerful the mind is with the body, because after that I started to improve. I got better. I remember waking up one morning and I could move my big toe, and just being really excited and having to learn to walk again. So I think that ties in to what I do now, because
that is incredible. And all of these years that I've known you, I never knew that. So what an incredible and an incredibly powerful story, really. And just to touch on that, just the whole kind of being in the right environment as well. You moved and changed the environment, or the environment was changed that you were in, and that is sort of, is it that you kind of felt that you were affected by the language that the other person was using, and that was bringing you down, and but you just, by being in a different environment, it kind of triggered that support that you needed to reframe and rewire what was going on in your mind?
Definitely, because I was just influenced by being next to her and her constantly talking to me about how she was feeling. And so I would listen to all of that. And I remember just feeling very down and very low in my mind, and sort of being very vulnerable as well as a 13-year-old being in an adult ward. And I was in Sheffield. I was so my mum used to come and see me every day, but it was a long journey. But I think also just being in that environment where you were just a body in a way. And I remember nurses bed bathing me and being very vulnerable, like my whole body was on the show. And talking over me, and that probably wasn't their intention, but I remember those moments. And I remember getting bladder infection in the middle of the night. I had a catheter, and a nurse said, "Oh, it's probably you've just started your period," and walked off again. And it wasn't until I was in excruciating pain that they realised my catheter was blocked. So those kind of moments have stuck with me. And I must say, it really, I see it now as a positive, because I've always valued my health. And without our health, we're nothing. And not being able to walk, so I have huge empathy with people that aren't able-bodied. In fact, it led me into working with disabled people after that. And I used to go and work for a charity called Backup, which is supporting people with spinal injuries. And I take them on with a friend of mine, Penny, who's a physiotherapist. We used to take them hiking and things like that. And what I discovered was the mind is so powerful. So chatting to, and I remember one particular guy's journey. He was only 24. He'd had an accident, an industrial accident, where the building fell on him, broke his back. But his life, it was in a factory, he had turned his life around, and it really kind of inspired me that to focus on what we can do rather than what we can't do. And he started up a wheelchair business because he found that wheelchairs were really, really uncomfortable, and he redesigned one that was more comfortable and more sort of functional. So I was so inspired by people. And there was another lady in hospital who I got friendly with when I was moved. Now, she used to come in because when you're paralysed, you tend to have lots of kidney and lots of bladder infections. And she used to come in occasionally. Now, she changed her life around, and she was doing archery, and I remember all of her stories. So when I couldn't walk, I was inspired by these people. But I did leave, I think, with a bit of survivor's guilt, because I remember I went home for Christmas and I could walk by that stage. And I remember feeling guilty that there were people on the ward that didn't ever recover and couldn't walk again. So I felt so lucky.
Do you think that your reason for kind of recovery was what do you think were the key factors? Why you? Why was it that you recovered and managed to walk again as opposed to someone else? Do you think there's a specific reason for that?
Yes, I mean, I fell 40 foot and I hit a branch on the way down. So that helped to kind of break my fall. And my fracture was 2 fractures in my thoracic spine. And I think because of my age, I was 13, bones are still very malleable and still soft. So after sort of bed rest, I was for 13, 14 weeks, my fracture started to heal and get better. So yeah.
Very lucky.
Really, really lucky. And I remember there was one other 14-year-old girl who had a car crash actually on this adult ward, and she'd had plates put in her back, so she could walk as well. She was a similar age, so I think that was a key factor The bones are much more malleable at that age. Yeah.
I mean, there's all sorts of evidence as well, isn't there, for kind of the power of the mind. If people can manage to get their thinking right, that can have an incredible effect. So so moving on from kind of that experience, and then you sort of, did you start off doing nursing and then went into like corporate, and then?
Yes. So I started off nursing because I had some bad experience in hospital where I got black heels from bed sores where my heels weren't if you don't move for 10 hours, you lose the blood circulation. So my heels are still very sensitive, and I find it very interesting about pain, because pain is very strange. And just like if you have a limb amputated, you can still feel that pain, and that's in the brain. And I still feel that very sensitive area, in particular in one heel. And I'm really, really interested in how pain is affected by the mind, and how we can, especially with chronic pain. So I've been working with clients now with chronic pain and helping them manage that and feeling different about that. So I went into nursing really because I wanted to get away from home, and not really because I wanted. I realised how much I hated it when I started nursing, and I was only 8.5 stone when I started. Within a year, I went right up to 11.5 stone. So it was quite an unhappy phase of my life.
And how old were you then?
I was 18.
So that was the first thing you went into.
Yeah, and nursing is really, really stressful. So you're seeing death in the first few weeks. Back in the 80s, you were kind of used a bit really as an extra pair of hands, and I remember going on strike because of the pay, things like that. So I think the reason why it wasn't for me was I just wanted to sit and chat to patients and give that time to them. I hated the fact that it was all geared around the nurses and doctors. So patients have to get up at 6 in the morning. You've got to bed bath them. You've got to do the drug round before you have breakfast, and it's not really conducive to health.
No, I mean, we could talk for like all day just about this, because there's so many things with the healthcare system. I guess in terms of what you're doing now, like being your own boss and doing your own thing, that must kind of give you a lot of freedom to know that you can do it on your terms. Is that the case?
Definitely. I don't like being managed. I don't like being told what to do. So that was part of why I came out of nursing. And so fast forwarding to rank Xerox, I loved that particular job because there was a team of 6 of us and we managed ourselves. So there was a lot of freedom in that job. I had a company car, and it was just amazing. But then the first thing that goes when a company is struggling is training, customer services and training. And so from that, I decided to retrain as a therapist. So that was about 25 years ago. So I trained in reflexology. I trained in therapeutic massage for a year. But I didn't really use it until I came to Kent, which was 18 years ago. And then I was working in customer services, but building up my reflexology at the weekends. And then I took the brave step to go full time.
And what was it when the brave step? Was it something that had you built your business to a point where it was financially stable enough for you to leave your other job, or was it kind of like, what made you decide that then was the time for you to do it?
Well, I was in a job I hated. I was working in Downton Green, and it was a new position, and I wasn't really supported in that position. But I did ask if I could go down to 4 days, which they did. So they obviously valued me. So with that extra day, I built up my clients. And I remember working in Lamberhurst at the weekend, inner beauty place called Vino Beauty that's no longer there now. But I have been at Knoll Grange on and off for the last 13, 14 years.
Okay, wow.
But I also, it's such a beautiful, beautiful place to work. It's like a retreat. Also, I can go and use their pool after treating.
That sounds great. I've not actually been there, and I've heard I have to get there.
It is beautiful. It's actually just in the process of being sold, and it's all going to be changed, I think. I wonder whether it's going to be like an event place for weddings and things like that. But there still will be therapies going on there. There'll still be a gym. So yes. So, but I also in this little studio. This is where I at home. I'm very lucky to have a studio. We built this when we moved here 12 years ago. So I've been working in this little studio in my garden, doing reflexology, hypnotherapy, and mindfulness more recently, the last 4 years. So I got into mindfulness because I was suffering. I was ill with shingles, which is very painful. So I did an 8-week course, and that really helped to manage that. And it inspired me to then become a facilitator. So I spent a whole year training to become teaching 8-week courses for people to manage, and particularly emotional health, because when you're stressed, when you're anxious, or when you have chronic pain, the depression, it's all linked. All these emotions are linked.
And it's kind of self-perpetuating, I would imagine, like from, if you're already in pain, unless you've got really, if you've been on one of your mindfulness programs, then that will help, obviously. And what the transition from moving from kind of the reflexology and what else did you? Sorry, the reflexology.
Yes. So I tend to combine what I do. So I'll do Indian head massage as well. And then for 7 years, I was working on a Wednesday afternoon at Tunbridge Grammar School, delivering Carmen and Caroline workshops to teenagers. I absolutely love that. And that's sort of an age group that I'm quite passionate about. So I am in the process of delivering those workshops. So I want to combine self-massage, because obviously with lockdown I've been kind of going more online. So I'm passionate about, I'm in the process of just developing a course, particularly for 7 to 11-year-olds and also 11 to 13-year-olds, because I think they are really suffering at the moment.
Yeah. I've got someone, I must remember to connect you with someone that I was talking to recently who works with that 7 to 11 age range. What I would be interested to know, I know sort of other people, that entrepreneurs that I speak to, certainly in the wellness kind of area, like there's this whole kind of thing of, especially when you're doing, say, some kind of therapy, your reflexology, the whole idea of exchanging time for money. So you kind of like, it's you do your however much it is per hour, and there's a cap on it because you're only ever going to earn X amount. Is that something that you've, like, in terms of the decisions you've made, has it been a consideration for you in terms of the way you're growing your business to move away from that, or are you happy just to, I mean, not just, but because obviously you are doing these other things, but has that been something you've ever considered?
Well, throughout lockdown, I delivered my mindfulness course online for people that needed it for free. And then at the moment, I do like a compassion in action Zoom link for people that are really struggling to cope. So that's just a listening space for people just to come in and chat in a small group, just not for me to sort of say anything, but just it's quite healing just to have that space, just to talk, and then for people to just really listen, sort of like a non-judgmental space. That's where we can just sit and have that compassion for people. So that's one area that I've moved into. The other thing is that I have groups. So the students that have been on my course we meet up every month. So I'm passionate about having a community, a network of well-being. So creating these little communities. So I've got little communities that we meet every month. And hopefully next month we're going to meet for real. And nourishing in nature is another thing that I've really been doing in lockdown. So spending sort of like in my childhood, I was very much in nature. So I'm kind of really deepening that practice. I've done a few open university courses on forest bathing in lockdown as well.
Yeah.
And writing for well-being. So I've been writing so many journals over the last probably 2 or 3 years. So writing for well-being and focus journaling is another area. So I'm putting some of these things into a course, 4-week course. So part of it is about releasing stress and anxiety and writing your own timeline. Because when it's written down, once you become aware of it, it's sort of like reflecting and healing that inner child. So I've been doing a lot of my own healing, my own inner child. And so I'm quite keen. So that's going to be the first week. And then the second week is about creating a sort of what cravings do we have? What coping mechanisms do we go to? Whether it's food, whether it's alcohol, whether it's how can we change that? So moving from craving to comfort and increasing. So the mindfulness is increasing that happiness in your life, that compassion for yourself, because you have to give compassion to yourself before you can give it to other people.
Yeah, lovely. I love that. Create from craving to comfort. That's good. That. And so, what's your kind of like your? Have you got like a future vision of where you see your business and yourself?
Yes, I have. So I work closely with. I've just set up another little sort of therapy group, because I think it's quite when you are a therapist, you can sometimes just be quite insular. So it's really important to link in with other therapists that have these visions and goals.
Yeah, definitely.
So I've got a therapy caring and sharing sort of meetup, and I'm passionate. So I've suggested to work with another nutritionist. So she's like an expert on, her name is Caroline as well, so it's Caroline and Caroline working together on this sort of 4-week course. And it's to really help, because I was really overweight when I was that age, and I remember it's actually it's what are you waiting for? The time is now to release, and it is all your emotions. And once you tune in, once you grow that happiness, it's like a process of self-discovery, recognizing that and releasing. And it's not about loss, it's about what you're going to gain. So feeling lighter and healthier, and you're going to live longer for your children, and it's about recognizing that. And I'm passionate about doing it in a group, because I think since I've been working with groups, people support each other, and you get that close bond. So my mindfulness group, there's some friendships that have developed. It's my course, and it's really wonderful to see that as they support each other.
Yeah, group work is the way forward, if you ask me. I just think there's so much value in it from a kind of support side of things, but also from a in terms of moving forward from a business kind of perspective. I was telling someone the other day that it increases your likelihood of doing something by 95% if you're held accountable, which is incredible. And I think just having that support of others around you makes a massive difference, and especially when it comes to anything to do with the mind.
Yes, because we're the monkey mind chatter. We're our own worst critic. And I grew up not feeling good enough and feeling a failure, because I failed my 11 plus. And then
Can I just ask on that, if anyone's watching or on the replay, comment with have you ever felt like that too?
Yeah.
I think you're not alone.
Yeah, so I'm really passionate about getting that confidence up with being our own best friend, because others see all of this in us, and when people give you compliments, really it's about that belief, it's about growing, it's changing those limiting beliefs, and just shining. I kind of want to shine my light and give it to everybody else. Mm-hmm. And it only takes 10 minutes a day to do that with mindfulness and meditation. It's amazing where our brains can show and grow and change. So the mind grows by what it feeds on, and that's whether it's food in our bodies or we choose what messages to hear from the outside world.
And knowing what you know now, with all of the things that you're doing now and the journey that you've been on, what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
Gosh, is to not, I think with the writing, is actually take up my own pen and write with my own pen. I'm left-handed, by the way, creative side, and actually not live other people's dreams. Because a part of why I went into nursing was because my mum hadn't lived her dream, and she encouraged that path for me. And it took me, I think the first book that I read was The Road Less Travelled. And that was the first journey, and that was in my sort of mid-20s after that. And that was my first journey of being aware of, I think I was brought up to be a people pleaser, and I had a critical parent. So that feeling of, so I've been on this journey, I think, of proving myself, of being successful. But it took me a while to find my own path. My own journey. So I'm really now I've stepped up another level actually. So I'm really, really beginning to tell my story to help other people. Yeah.
Brilliant. I love it. And it's like, it's a sort of weird thing, because like we can all, with hindsight, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? And we can all look back and think, oh well, I wish I'd done that now, but that differently at that point. But it's like we're all kind of where we're meant to be at that particular time, as painful as it might be. And it's just, you've mentioned about reflection, how useful and powerful reflection can be, because if you are able to reflect and just having these sort of conversations, it can help to be like, oh, okay, right, that was the lesson that I would have given myself at 18. Let's make sure I take that now and actually do that now, and make the where you're at right now the best your life can be. And like you said, shining that light on others and helping them shine their own light.
Yeah, so that's my passion, because everybody has the answers within them. It's about it's that self-awareness is the first step towards change, and it's can be like a domino effect once you're on that path. Because I think with lockdown we are, it's not a dress rehearsal. Life does really change in a blink of an eye. I mean, last year we had a fire in our house before lockdown. So that was that shock really positively now woke me back as well to life. And so I've made quite a lot of changes since then.
And like, it's that thing of like, let's not wait for these things to happen to us to make changes. Let's kind of take what the collective experience that we've all had in this last few months to really make the difference that
I'm just
ourselves in the world.
I'm just reflecting, this is a pebble, because I'm passionate about sort of the planet and saving the planet, and my house is filled with crystals and rocks and fossils. This is a little fossil in here. But it reminds me of an eye, and when I sort of want a bit more insight, I put it here. It's a lovely cooling stone. But the other thing I'm passionate about is about children, getting them connected. I mean, I think this lockdown, they are much more connected, but really get the responsibility going for looking after our planet and making each person, we can do something to grow vegetables, to really embrace our planet, our green planet. Yeah, I'm very, very passionate about that. And so I'm changing my therapy really to be kind of nourishing nature. So taking people out of the therapy room and walking the walk, talking the talk with them, and sort of using nature as a way of digging up root, so what's going on in your roots, digging those roots up and giving them some fresh air of your past. And because we have the ability to rewrite our stories. We can see it every time we think about a memory. We think about it differently in the past, and
I think by being in nature, it kind of further helps to help people to really appreciate what we do have around us and how important it is to protect and nurture. But for ourselves and for our children and other people's grandchildren.
Definitely.
So mindful of time, because I said I'd only be half an hour. I think that's been really, really interesting and just so amazing to hear your story and what you're doing. And so how can people find out about you, Caroline? How can they follow what you're up to? And
I've created a group, a mindful group, just called Caroline Aldis, Creating a Mindful Life. So you're free to join, and so the topic is mindfulness, but I'm thinking of changing that to minding the body, so it ties in. So we're connecting our mind with our bodies at a deeper level. Can
you pop any links in the comments, and then if anyone's watching the replay, #replay, let us know what you think, and any questions or comments, and Caroline or myself will come back and answer those. And you mentioned about the kind of other sort of therapist community that you're building. Have you got? How can you find out about that? I know we've got quite a lot of people that are in that space in our group here. So how can they connect with you?
Well, there are kind of private groups that I've got sort of on WhatsApp. But
if they private message you, maybe if they're interested in being part of that.
There is a one that I belong to called Your Business, Your Soul, and that's an amazing group as well. And through that group, I have met a coach. So I'm having kind of coaching to really help me put my plans, because I'm very good, I think, during lockdown. I have all these inspirational ideas, but it's time for me to kind of act. So that, but the network of well-being is a whole network of mindfulness experts that meet. If they just type in network of well-being, if they're interested in developing their mindfulness practice, then that's another way to tap into that. Or just come into my group. Please do join, because I share my tips, I share my courses, and it's a group to really come in and tell your stories. I'm passionate about creating that space and that community.
Okay, that's really cool. And remind us again the name of that group.
So Caroline Aldis.
Caroline Aldis, to your name. Yeah.
Creating a mindful life. Also, I'm the Right Foot Forward. I still got that as my business page, but the right bit was my maiden name. That's why it's the Right Foot Forward. But
good name though. Good play on words.
I'm still at heart a right person.
Yeah.
I didn't get a middle name, so my middle name was Always. But sometimes always.
I'm right. All this.
It doesn't have the same ring to it.
No.
Well. But at least I'm at the beginning of the queue rather than at the end of the queue.
That's a good, yeah, wow. That's, yeah, you've gone through pretty much the whole alphabet. Brilliant. Thank you so much. And yes, thank you to everyone listening. And we'll be back again, not next Friday, but soon.
Thank you. Okay. I'll encourage people to join your group as well.
Oh, thank you, Caroline. Yes, perfect. I'll just say bye, everyone.